Hi, my name is Peter Jones. I'm a Principal Engineer with Cisco Systems, and I'm also the Chairman of the NBASE-T Alliance. I'm here at vBrownbag at Cisco Live in Europe, and I want to talk to you about multi-gigabit, NBASE-T, and 802.3bz. So you can follow me on Twitter, or you can actually follow the hashtag #NBASE-T. Let's get started. I want to talk briefly about the wireless environment. As you're all familiar, wireless has been moving rapidly. If you cast your mind back, a few years ago, wireless was a nice-to-have thing. What we're seeing these days is wireless has become pervasive, has moved into rich media, and is now becoming mission critical. Also in this time, we're seeing that wireless has evolved from being like 11 megabits a second, 3G at 54, 11N at 450. We're now up to 11AC wave 1 at a gigabit, and wave 2 is coming. Wave 2 is looking to go 3.4 or 6.8 gigabits per second. At this stage, and in the future, we'll go up to 10 gig. So at this stage, we're starting to see APs coming out now, where the AP is faster than the backhaul link to the switch that supplies it. So what do I need to do about this? Clearly, you could run multiple links. It's not a great idea. You need to go recable, and link aggregation has its issues. So how can I address this urgent problem for all of us who want to attach via wireless? I want to talk a little bit about what we're doing in multi-gigabit, NBASE-T, and 802.3bz. We're going to build 2.5 and 5G base T. Most of you will be familiar with 100 base T and 1000 base T, and also 10G base T. 100 base T is a fast Ethernet, lots of it all around the place. We standardized 1000 base T with gigabit Ethernet in 1999. We standardized 10 gigabit Ethernet base T in 2006. So you might ask, 10 years later, why am I still running 1000 base T as the bulk of my enterprise access? So what you might want to think about is between 2003 and 2014, we sold 70 billion meters of category 5E and category 6 cable. That's the cable that supports 1000 base T. That's about 10 meters each. In the last 20 years, we sold more than 4 billion fast Ethernet and gigabit Ethernet base T ports. So one of the interesting things about base T is it allows you to do incremental upgrade. You can basically upgrade a switch, and then you can upgrade all your end devices piece by piece. This lets you basically transition your enterprise simply over time without requiring a full rip and replace. So we know that existing specifications support 1 gigabit per second over the category 5E and category 6 cable, and that is currently 90% of the world base. There's about 1.4 billion base T outlets in the world, 1.3 billion of them are 5E and 6. So today, about 100 million could actually go and do 10G base T, but what about the 1.3 billion? So existing specifications only run 1G base T over 100 meters of structured cabling for 5E or 6. But we could actually do faster rates. So let's imagine I look at this investment cabling, which is the vast bulk of what you have. And by the way, that takes a lot to replace. Normally we replace cable maybe every 15 years, maybe every 20 years, or maybe when the building burns down. So some numbers we have show that cabling might cost $200 or $300, maybe $700 a time to replace. So also that you find basic issues, if you want to go and replace that cabling, you might need to open up the wall. Maybe you need to move people out. If you're a hospital, that's a real problem, right? You can't open up the roof above an operating theatre. So you find people are very resistant to recable the networks unless they build a new building or it's a full reskin. So we have this huge install base. We can give you more value out of that without a recable. So how are we going to make that work? So I want to talk to you about Cisco multi-gigabit. So we announced this and introduced it in January of 15 in Cisco Live in Milan, and we're a year on now. So let me quickly talk through this. So we start off being standards compliant. So we're standards compliant with 1000 base T, which everyone has, and also with 10G base T. That's the IEEE specs. So right now we have an active IEEE project, 802.3bz, which is standardized in 2.5 and 5G base T. And so that standard's in progress, and we will be standards compliant with that. Again, for Cisco multi-gigabit, we start off wanting to give you PoE. That's basically PoE for 15 watts, PoE plus for 30 watts, and also UPoE for 60. So we're the first people to basically have this out, so you can still maintain giving people both their data and the power over one cable. That means all the systems you've built up for powering your APs or your cameras will just keep working. So we want to fundamentally give you infrastructure investment protection. So we talked already about this. You have a whole lot of category 5E and category 6 cables in your wall. I want to make sure you can use that while still deploying new speeds to basically service those users in those parts of your network that need higher speeds. And I want to make sure that you can basically maintain your cabling structure. As you all know, for base-T cabling, the magic number is 100 meters. So they assume between your switch and your end device, there's 100 meters of cable. This actually breaks down into about 5 meters of patch cable, 1 or 2 patch panels, 90 meters of solid cable, another 1 or 2 connections, and 5 meters of patch. That is your 100 meter reach. So everyone builds cabling systems in their buildings based on that. In the States, this is based on what you will get out of TAR, TR42. Elsewhere in the world, it might come out of the ISO, IEC. But again, everyone builds structured cabling based on that assumption. You have to live inside that assumption or you're up to recabling. So my goal is to look and allow you all to basically take out your 1,000 base-T links, replace your switch, replace your AP, and run 2.5 or 5 gig on the same cable plant. Basically, that's going to give you future-proof. That's going to make it easy to upgrade and adopt the new technology. So let's talk a little bit how we might pull this off. If we think a little bit about how you build base-T PHYS today, Cat5e is specified to 100 megahertz worth of bandwidth. Cat6 in the middle here is specified to 250. And 6A, which is what you need for 10G base-T, is specified up to 500 megahertz at 100 meters. So let me think a little about this a little bit. So 100 base-T. If you look at the way the encoding works, they basically run PAM2, and so basically running 4 bits per second per hertz per pair. You do the math, end up with a Nyquist of about 62.5 megahertz. If you look at 10G base-T, the encoding is more complex. They're getting 6.25 bits per symbol down. And so you do the math, they end up with a Nyquist of around about 400 megahertz. So these are fitting nicely. The 1,000 base-T is fitting nicely inside category 5e, and 10G base-T is fitting nicely inside category 6A. But you remember, we told you before, category 6A is less than 10% of the world population. So I'm going to try and solve your problem. I need to fit within inside the install base cable. So 2.5G base-T. If I basically take the 10G base-T coding, tweak it a little bit, and run it at quarter speed, I fit inside 100 megahertz. So within the Nyquist limit for that category 5e cabling. Do the same thing. If I take the 10G base-T coding, I run about half the speed, I get a Nyquist of about 200 megahertz for 5G base-T. So I'm comfortably within inside category 6, which is about half the world's cable. And with a little bit of care, I can run this on 5e. So basically what I have is I have a way to take the signaling techniques from 10G base-T, clean them up a little bit, slow them down, and I'm going to push that signaling, the faster rate, down the existing cabling plant. Does that make sense? Okay, let's move on. The NBASE-T Alliance. So this is the vendor alliance of which I'm the chair. So we have a specification, not a standard, because we're not a standards organization. So you can see we have a whole lot of promoter companies, Cisco, Aquantia, Intel, Marvell, NXP, and Xilinx. So these are the key leaders of the alliance. They're on the board and we help run the alliance. Our contributor companies work in our technical and marketing working groups. We have a whole lot of adopters. These are people who think the spec is interesting and want to build product based off it. So as I said, we have a whole bunch of people. We include components, silicon, system, cabling, and test. So we have the whole ecosystem that we can pull this new standard off and get it out to market fast. Now our goal is to basically explain to people how it can be deployed with safety and also advance the cause of getting the standard done in a hurry. So our fundamental role is to enable widespread deployment of all our specifications and facilitate interoperability. The key thing to remember is without interop, we have no story. So let's move on. Let's talk use cases for a second. I'll go through a few of them. Clearly, the most important use case we started with was to address the needs of the enterprise wireless APs as a transition from 11N to AC Wave 1 to AC Wave 2. We also want to look at things like network attached storage. I want to give the vBrownbag guys, I want to build you a Thunderbolt adapter for your Mac and a local network attached storage so you can offload your videos at maybe 2.5 or 5 gig instead of 1. I want to think about service provider gateways because the downstream for PON now can run at 2.5 or 5 gig. I want to think about small cell, right? Think about the way you want to build a small cell inside the building. If you're doing a lightweight processing, the radio sitting over there, the brains is over here. Those guys want to backhaul at 1.5 or 2 gigabits. You can use security cameras. I really love compact switches. They're very handy for like a downstream. You could think about it in the retail store. Maybe imagine your store core. You would have like a stack of switches in the middle of the store. You might then have a compact switch in the edge or maybe at a cash register. Medical devices is fun. If you think about the way medicine is evolving, They have a lot of high bandwidth devices like MRI scanners, X-ray machines, and they also have people like doctors who want to get those dumps on their pads really fast. So also desktop and gaming PCs, right? The gamer guys don't want the most bandwidth they can get. So I think there's a whole lot of cases where the high-end users in your organization really want more than a gig. And I want to get you away from the, I'm sorry I can't do that because you need new cabling, to absolutely I can make this work for you. So we have a whole lot of use cases, both enterprise and IoT and home. Quickly on status, because I want to run fast, I want to make sure I don't exceed my limitation. So here's a quick picture of the way that 802.3bg shows this. What we're seeing over here on the right-hand side, on left-hand side, is we started this process around about November 14. We ran what's called a call for interest. That starts your project running. We actually got a task force, we actually had our first meeting as a study group and approved our objectives, which is our goals, in January 15. We became a study group a little while later, and then in our first meeting as a study group, we adopted technical baselines. So we moved really fast because we want to address the user need, not argue about which coding works for a long time. So right now, we've just decided that we have a complete document, and we're starting a wider ballot. All things being equal, we'll be done by September of 16. So that will be less than 2 years from when we started the process to when our standard is done. We expect that it will be a software upgrade for anyone shipping NBASE-T today to the standard. So we believe right now you can adopt with confidence without risk. So let me try and summarize it. We want to do multi-gigabit NBASE-T .3bz. They're all the same thing. I want to give you 2.5 and 5 G base T over the category 5E and 6 cable you have today. I want to let you adjust your network so you can grow your network as your users need it. And also you can size the end device to what it needs. If your AP only needs 2 gig, build a 2.5 gig interface. If what you have is really a workstation, maybe you want 10 G base T, but 5 gig is much better than getting 1. So, as an aside, I can tell you, right now the world is dominated by 1000 base T. What you're seeing on this chart is the relative proportion, and you see right now we are dominated by 1000 base T. I can tell you that wireless is not going to stop. My friends in .11, they're doing a great job, they keep going faster. I want to make sure that I can support them and give them the backhaul that they need. As I mentioned before, although category 6A is growing as a cabling type, right now we have about 90% of the world base is 5E and 6. That's a huge investment that we need to leverage. And as I mentioned, we have well understood technical methods for getting more bandwidth down the cable that exists. So, if you've enjoyed this, what I really would like you to do, go and look for Cisco TechWise TV. Go look at their fundamentals of NBASE-T video. About 4 minutes, and it's a beautiful show from Rob Boyd. Watch the video, recommend it to your friends. Go visit NBASE-T.org, the home site for the NBASE-T Alliance. Go read the material, read the white papers, look at the product listings. And go visit and look at cisco.com/go/multigigabit to find out about our multi-gigabit products. With that, I'm done. Thank you, vBrownbag. It was a lot of fun.